Hey, how's it going? Welcome back to Tool Show with me, Master Dan, the Journeyman shooter. And it's a beautiful morning here. I'm out early and I got my coffee time for our coffee time break, and that's what I figured I'd talk about today. No, I'm just kidding. We're not going to talk about coffee. Even though it is really delicious, I figured we'd talk about something else. And what would we talk about today? Well, sometimes in life you get dealt a hand, just like in gambling, and you have to know when to hold them, you got to know when to fold them, you got to know when to walk away, and you got to know when to run. No, I'm just kidding. You don't want to count your money when you're sitting at the table. That's part of it right there, but that's just what it is, and I wanted to kind of talk about that today because, yeah, gambling is it's a part of life. It's everywhere. It's every day you risk and you gamble stuff on even getting out of bed. It's like, well, do I get out of bed and do something? It's like, well, yeah, you probably should. It'd be a good idea, but part of that gambling is you're dealt a hand. Every day you're given something, and like it's like poker. It's kind of a life analogy, basically. You're given a hand, like 5 cards, and what you do with those cards is what you get. But a lot of the time in that game, you can't give away your hand, or else everybody's going to take advantage of you, because that's what it is. You don't want somebody to know exactly what your whole secret is or what you're trying to do, and that's important. You can't give away your hand. It gets kind of crazy, because if you give away your hand or you say way too much, especially I know right now, like when I work with a lot of younger guys, they'll tell you every single thing about their personal life, and it's kind of crazy because I don't need to know that much about your personal life. It's not important to me. I'm just kidding. It is sort of important to me, but I don't need to know what you do on a Saturday night or what you're doing Sunday morning. It's like that's a little bit too much information some of the time, but you got to be smart and you got to kind of know when to hold that back, basically, because especially in life, people like somebody that has a little bit of mystery to them, because I know there's a lot of stuff I can't tell you because I'm just kind of saving it up for when I do get big or the show gets big, because I've got a lot of really great stories and stuff I've heard over the years, but I'm not going to give away my whole hand before the whole cards are all dealt on the table. So you got to be careful. Yeah, you just don't want that to happen. And that's what it was, because I know when I was a young kid, I that was when I kind of figured out what gambling was and started learning, and I loved it. I was really good at it. I was watching a TV show, and they called this young kid the Oracle because he had so much free time that he was able to just learn how to pick teams and learn how to know who was going to win. So like when you have that much free time and you know who's going to play each other and all that kind of stuff, then basically it gets kind of crazy because you can pick the game. And that was what happened with me, is I could pick and tell you exactly who was going to win before the game even started, as long as I knew who was in the lineup, basically. And it was only for baseball though, and I remember I'd go to like Detroit Tigers games, and I was young, and I'd do it over and over again, and I'd say this team's going to win, or this team's going to win the World Series this year, or this is going to happen, because I just played baseball every single day, all day, summers and some falls and spring, and I'd watch baseball on Sportsnet, sports whatever. I don't want to give away any channels because maybe someday one of them might sponsor the show, but I used to watch the sports on there all the time, and I knew exactly who was going to win or who was going to be playing that night. And so I just keep saying it. I was like, well, this team's going to win, this team's going to win. And then finally somebody's like, well, why don't you just gamble on one of the games? If you know every game, then why don't you do it? And I was only 17, and you had to be 18 to gamble where I was from, so there wasn't a legal way to do it, but I could grow facial hair before everybody else, so I snuck in there and used my old facial hair technique and ended up getting a ticket. And the first ticket I ended up winning, I think, $400 on, and that was when I realized anything over $300 you couldn't cash it at the actual till there, so they'd make you go to the casino, which was I couldn't do it because I was only 17 at the time. And then I had to go to people that I trusted and had to go get them to go cash it in, and it was kind of crazy. And my mom ended up finding out about it and gave me a big long lecture. And it is Mother's Day today, so I figured, hey Mom, thank you so much for all the great lectures that you given me over the years, and I've been very lucky. My mom's a really smart woman. She's a bank manager for so long and taught me everything I need to know about money, or at least a lot of the stuff I need to know about money, because nobody knows everything, but at least my mom's been smart enough to tell me not to do stupid things all the time. And even though most of the time I didn't listen, but I've been very lucky to have her. And yeah, she was kind of telling me about gambling. She's like, well, you're not always going to win. When, like, once in a while you might win and it's going to get your hopes up, but you're not always going to win. That's part of life. You gotta expect that. You gotta it's fun, but you got to realize that you're probably going to lose that money. So if you're gambling, just expect that money's going to be lost. It's not something that you're possibly going to keep, because you never know. It's a game of chance. But that's what life is too. Sometimes you're gambling on everything, risk versus reward. And I know with risk versus reward, that's kind of I like NASCAR, and in NASCAR, that's a pretty big part of it. Is they go 3 wide in the corners, and when you're going 3 cars wide into a corner, there's a lot of danger that could happen. Like there could be crashes. You're so close to each other doing 200 miles an hour, and I kind of like it just because it's like a soap opera for men, because there's always some kind of drama between 2 of the drivers or something's going on. But with that, the risk versus reward, and my mom always kind of said that is you have to be very careful, because you have a lot of risk when you're gambling and all that kind of stuff. And I realized that, and so I went out and bought another ticket. Because I knew who was going to win that weekend. And I went to a Tigers game with my girlfriend, and I remember we were sitting in the stands. I was watching all the games on the wall, because there was a big wall that had all the games playing on there, or at least the scores. And I was like, I'm going to win. There's no way I'm going to lose this one. And sure enough, I won another, I think it was $800 that night. And I went home and I had to talk to my mom, and I was like, Mom, I remember that you told me that you're not always going to win, and I'm really sorry, but I lost a lot of money. I need $1,400. And she's kind of just like dropped her face. She's like, oh my God. And I was like, no, Mom, I'm just kidding. I won $800, so I need somebody to cash this in for me. And then she got all upset. And my dad kind of said, well, at that point, he's like, well, man, I should start giving you some money, because you know who's going to win. But then everything kind of ends, and I just figured, why not? I slowed down. I stopped watching baseball as much. I made a couple bets. They didn't win, and I realized, why not give up while you're ahead? I got a new guitar from it. I got a whole bunch of different stuff, and it was great. I ended up taking my girlfriend to a whole bunch of Tigers games on basically the sporting betting. So, but you don't want to do that. You don't want to use that as a thing, because nothing lasts forever. Nothing is like a guarantee, especially in sports or in life in general. Nothing's guaranteed. Even if you think life is going to be the greatest thing for you forever, something always comes up, and there's always an obstacle. But how you handle those obstacles is going to get you farther in life, and that's why you got to kind of keep watching our show and subscribe to some of the stuff that we got. So learn a few things with me, kind of take your time, and I don't know, go through all my videos, like them, subscribe, do the watching, leave some positive comments. Why not? There's some people that like to leave some real jerk comments, and I get a whole lot of jerk emails, and that's kind of what it is. But I really don't care. I'm just here to talk to people and be friends. I'm not really here to hate. I'm not here to fight. I'm not here to get into trouble, and I'm not here to gamble away my career, because that's what I want. This is a gamble, but I'm trying to do the right thing and place the right bets in the right areas and invest that money wisely. I don't see it as a gamble. It's an investment more, because that's what people call more expensive gambling. But you're investing. It's just like the stock market. You're gambling that money that something's going to happen. But sometimes if you know what's going to happen and you can predict the future, just like when I was a kid, when all I did was watch sports and I knew everything about it, you can start to predict and make legitimate predictions, and that's a better investment for your money. Just like this show, I know it's going to go really far, so I'm going to keep investing my money in it, and it's going to eventually get really big, and a whole bunch of other people are going to invest their money, and then we're going to go worldwide, make the clothing line, make the tool line, and it's going to be great. I got a whole long plan, and if you want to hear it, feel free to give me an email, toolshow.ca, check it out. And for Tool Show, I'm Master Dan, the Journeyman shooter. Get out there, try not to gamble so much, but if you gotta, make sure it's a legitimate bet and place a big one. Have a good one.